Good day. Well, sorry to take so long to get back on this little series. I've done 1 through 4 of these undercover narcotics detective stories. This will be number 5. I got delayed because I've been working on a couple of other videos having to do with murders on young girls, unsolved murders. You could check those out on my other videos if you'd like. But let me get you up to speed for now on the story of these 2 biker dudes, heavy, hardcore outlaw bikers that I brought in from California to Colorado Springs. If you remember, we had Ralph kind of started the whole thing, the millionaire who had gotten himself in trouble with some girls in a motel and some cocaine, needed to work off his charges. That led me to the clubs where I met Kirk, the bouncer and a biker associate, local biker associate, big bad bouncer dude. And that led me to the Denver Bronco fella, the ex-Denver Bronco fellow, let me qualify that, and some of the dancers and that kind of thing. And they led me to the next, what would be the 3rd arrest in these situations here, this part of the story, where I met this wingnut and his girlfriend and bought from them large quantity. And they got themselves in a jam. They had to work off charges, and they took me to a dude that could do a pound of cocaine. I did that pound, and it turned out that the guy who delivered that was a commercial airline pilot. So you're kind of up to speed on the first videos. If you'd go back and watch all 4 of them, you'd have a much better understanding of this. But if you've been faithful and have been watching, great. So the airline, commercial airline pilot had done an introduction by phone, which led to me communicating by phone with these 2 biker dudes coming in from California. And I flew them in, took them to the hotel and that I had arranged, and I told you all that. And that's where they identified themselves and threatened me that if I was a cop, I was dead, that kind of thing. And I found out that they belonged to the biggest, baddest outlaw biker club in the world. So I had made arrangements at a Mercedes dealership to use the office of the owner, and they gave me a brand new Mercedes to drive so I could appear to have all this money, because these guys could apparently produce all the cocaine in the world. So it kind of gets you up to speed if you didn't know where we were going with this. Well, right away they want to go out to a strip club, and I was able to contact Kirk, found him at a different club than I'd been at before. He was bouncing at another club, which was actually closer to our hotel and close to Fort Carson, which is a big Army base in Colorado Springs. So I call Kirk, tell him I'm bringing a couple of boys in. I want him to take really good care of them. He promises he'll do that. So we head to the club. So this is where we're starting out today. Head to the club. Kirk pretty much meets us at the door. He's the bouncer. We do a little bit of an introduction. But he still doesn't know who these guys are, other than he can tell they're hardcore. We sit down. Kirk asks us where we want to sit. These guys want to sit right up at the main stage, on the stage, basically. And that's fine. So we're set there and order our beers, and girls are dancing right above us. And of course, I'm supposed to have all the money in the world, and I learned from Ralph that if you tip with 5s, 10s, or 20s, you get a lot more attention than if you throw $1 bills out on the stage. So I had city money, and so I'm tipping, throwing a 10 out on the stage for every dancer. And they would approach us when they would get off the stage and want to do a lap dance. Usually those were $25. I told them to hit the road, that we didn't have time for that, that maybe they could talk about that later. But I told the first couple of gals that came, tell the other girls to leave us alone. If we want them around, I will let them know. So everything's going pretty good. About the time we finished our first beer and ordered the second one, the smaller of the two bikers, the one who was really in charge, called Kirk over. And Kirk leans over his left shoulder, and the biker whispers something into his ear. I'm not sure to this day what he said, but obviously Kirk from that point on knew who they were. And then the dude leans into me and he says, "I don't drink with," and he used the N word. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to be good. So Kirk goes to the table, about 3 different tables, I believe, where there were some GIs, they looked like to me, that were black. And the first ones that he approached and sat down and kind of chatted with them, I could see by their body reaction they weren't too thrilled. And I thought, oh God, here we go. This is going to blow up right here in my face. We're going to have a big brawl here in the middle of the bar. But about that time, a couple of the dancers showed up at that table. And this is how things work in these clubs. And Kirk and these young ladies convinced all of the men of color to accompany them to the lower level of the club. And again, I'm sure they were taken care of down there. They went willingly, let me put it that way. And again, that's how these things work in these clubs.
I just finished the most wonderful book, House Secrets. It's full of drama, suspense, and of course, romance. You won't be able to put it down. The characters will pull you from page to page all the way till the end, and it's a thriller. My boyfriend cannot wait to read it.
So, we spend several hours in the club, and we're knocking down beers. These guys drink one after the other. Girls approach again. I tell them, hit the road. And these two guys pretty much controlled the bar for the rest of the night. I mean, of course, I'm throwing a lot of money on the stage. So they got special care when the girls danced in front of us. So bottom line is, I've got to get them out of there and get to the dealership where we're going to talk, because I told them we're not talking biz in here. We couldn't talk it in the hotel room. We'll wait till we get to the office. So finally, it's getting kind of late. I'm assuming we're pushing midnight by now. And I convinced them it's time to go. Well, they want to take a couple of dancers with us. And I'm like, no, that is not happening. You know, I brought you guys all the way from California to take care of this major cocaine deal, and all you're interested in are dancers. And I kind of had to play as hard as I could and try to get control, as I've talked about before, of these guys. And I said, we'll come back. Let's go take care of business, and we can come back, and then if you want to hook up with the girls, that's on you. So they agreed to leave. So we get in the Mercedes and drive across town to the Mercedes dealership. They made a few more threats on that trip. You better not be a cop and all that kind of BS. I just kept focused and pulled into the lot of the dealership like I owned the place, and was a little worried that the janitor would still be around. I'd been told that he would try to clear out early, and also that if we showed up, of course the janitor didn't know who we were, but he was told if anybody shows up and comes in, The janitor was to leave. So I opened the door of the showroom and entered the showroom with, I don't know, 4 or 5 different models of Mercedes. And it didn't seem like the janitor was there. The place was quiet, so I felt fairly relaxed. But these guys, they want to check out the cars, like any guys like to do, I guess. And I'm telling them, hey, don't touch the cars, man. They've just been wiped down. They're all ready for tomorrow. Don't touch them. You can look at them, but don't touch them. So they're kind of, F you kind of attitude. Eventually I convinced them, let's go upstairs to the office and let's get this going, because we're talking about this major deal. And I had in the back of my mind, from the phone calls that we had back and forth setting this up, that we were talking in the range of $100,000 worth of cocaine. So we finally get him up to the office. And it was, an awesome office. Once again, they've got to touch everything, and they're walking around the office, and it's hard to get them to slow down, and they're about half in the bag anyway. And finally get them to sit down and let's talk business. And I explained to them that my father-in-law owns the business, and I have access to whatever's needed as far as money. And of course, they're promising that they can produce the same quality of cocaine that I had purchased in the past from another individual, but same connection. They were the connection. And that they could produce unlimited cocaine. So we go back and forth, back and forth. The fact that I had the picture of my wife, our wedding picture, sitting behind me was real convincing. There was no doubt that they bought hook, line, and sinker the fact that I was the son-in-law and had all this money. So we negotiate. More threats are made. Now, I'm not really worried about these guys while I'm in the dealership, but I did not have a body mic on me at this time. We didn't have time to set those things up as this all went down, and I couldn't have undercover people coming into the dealership during the day and setting up the system and all that. So my guys are outside, probably 100 yards away, watching, but they're not monitoring, hearing the conversation. Well, it didn't go exactly like I wanted. They insisted that they could do any amount, but I would have to come to California. I'm to bring the cash to California and do the deal there, and it was my problem to get it back to Colorado. Well, that was a disappointment because, my team, we wanted the cocaine delivered to us in Colorado Springs. That's the way things work. But they were adamant that they were not going to travel with that amount of cocaine. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll figure out something. I'll make this work one way or another. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to have to turn it over to the feds, let them do a deal out in California, and they'll get the credit. So anyway, we negotiate. I finally agree, okay, either I or someone that I introduce you to will make the deal in California. They'll bring the cash out, and they'll transport. So finally, we wrap it up, and I was disappointed because it went from a $100,000 deal down to a 5-pound cocaine deal for $50,000, which is still a very substantial buy, and of course DEA would be interested, even if it wasn't the bigger deal. So we finally wrap it up, and I make sure I lock the place up as well as I can, and I've had a few drinks myself. And they're in a hurry now to get back to the club. Well, by now it's right at 2 o'clock. We're pushing 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, okay, I hope all the girls are gone. I hope Kirk's gone. I hope everybody's gone. I can just end up taking these guys to the hotel. So I take my time and I take a roundabout way to get back to the club. And I kill probably 20 minutes driving there, which would have been usually a 10-minute trip. And one of the dudes has already passed out in the back seat. And I pull into the club, and thank God it's pretty much empty. It's locked up. Everything's dark. There's a couple of people in the parking lot, but they're not associated with the club. And so I tell the guys, I'm taking you to the hotel. That's it. And that's what I did. I took them back, and I just dropped them at the lobby of the hotel. I didn't go back in with them. So that was it for that night. I have to admit, driving home, I took a roundabout way. Not that they had surveillance. I was confident they did not, but I still was very careful how I went home. And I have to admit, my knee was shaking on the pedal as I drove home. Not so worried about myself, but worried about my family, my wife mostly, because that's the way these guys do things. They don't necessarily come after you. They take care of your family. So that was it for the night. I took the car back to the dealership the next day, thanked the guy, didn't think I would need it anymore. And then in talking with him, he convinced me, no, you need to hang on to it if these guys are still in town. And so I hung on to the car then at his suggestion. And by the way, he never charged us a penny for any of this. So these guys decide they want to spend another night in Colorado Springs. So I'm thinking, okay, but I'm not going to hang with you tonight. So I tell them I'll cover the hotel, but I'm not going to the club with them because I know that's what they're going to do. And they've already met Kirk, and so he'll take care of you. And anything you get involved with these girls, you're on your own. There's taxi cab service. Do whatever you want, but I'm out of it. So all of our arrangements were agreed on. I was going to contact them by phone. I would come and get them, take them to the airport when they did decide to leave, because they had to change their flights then. And that all works out. We get all that taken care of. They did cause a bit of a problem at the club that second night, but Kirk was able to get things under control. And the police didn't have to be called, thank God, because I always have to explain those things, or whoever is working under with somebody. If there's a problem, you got to explain how you let it get out of control. So anyway, that was it. I finally got them on a plane out of Colorado Springs, and debriefed with DEA, and DEA was going to monitor them getting off of the plane in California. They thought they possibly had them identified at that point, and they would wait for me to make the arrangements by phone, and they would take it and do the deal in California. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened with the feds. I'm not going to touch that, but things did proceed in California. And that was about it. And what that did is it took me that much deeper into the biker scene locally, because Kirk is an associate of our local club, and these guys being there just validated that I was the real deal. And so that takes me on to the next episode, which is going to be getting in with our local club. And I'm not sure when I'm going to get that done. I'm pretty busy working on these unsolved murders right now, and maybe doing a video there, and it takes a little research. So that's the boys from California. Had no idea how much power these guys had. They took that club over, sent these other boys to the basement, but they were accompanied by some beautiful young ladies, and they didn't mind. I think these guys hooked up with some of the dancers at the hotel the second night. Surveillance seemed to think so. None of my business, wasn't involved in that. So, if you follow this so far, give me the like if you like what I'm doing. Share this with people. Please keep subscribing to the channel. I'll get back to these episodes and what happens in Colorado Springs and a little bit in Denver and Pueblo and all that area in some of these next videos. But right now I'm going to have to kind of wrap this up for now. And hope you guys will come back for, I guess it would be episode 6. So, check out my book, House Secrets. It's on Amazon. I'd like to sell a few thousand of those here pretty quick. And I guess that's it for now. So thanks for watching. Have a good day and be safe.